Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one I'm going to be going over all the changes that are coming forth to the jungle in patch 11.10. Basically, I hope to give you the truth and explanation behind all the numbers and the decisions Riot made and the implications it will have on the jungle meta. Now normally I only have to make one of these a season, but back in 11.4 they nerfed experience. You know, because jungling was more stale than a 300-day-old baguette. Regardless, I feel like the biggest change is being completely ignored by most people and they're complaining about the things they shouldn't be. So let's not waste any more time. If you enjoy this video and the general educational content, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. Head to the gameplay channel for all full gameplay analysis videos, coaching and Twitch link below as well. And now, without further hesitation, let's begin. Right, first up we have more forgiving jungle clears. They think that with the shorter jungle timers, the pace of the game is increased. You know, more farming, more ganking. Yeah, I don't really agree with the more ganking aspect. Definitely more farming, and we'll get into that in a second. But you can see that jungle monster base attack damage is reduced. Jungle monster attack damage is also reduced. You'll see the numbers shown on your screen now. Just for context, those are only the large monster per camp. The smaller monsters also have been adjusted. And you'll see that the Scuttle Crab and the buffs have also had their HP increased as well. Essentially, this really doesn't change much. It means you take less damage while you clear, and because of the HP increase, it will take you just a little bit longer in compensation to finish off those camps. On the face of it, everyone's complaining that jungle is being made easier, and yes, clearing is being made easier, but I've made multiple videos in the last couple of months, including the Nidalee Challenger vs Silver gameplay last week, as well as the discussion about off-meta junglers on why a first clear and a second clear specifically can really set the tempo of your snowball advantage, of your game control. Most of the best junglers in the game are just unplayable in lower elo because it requires a certain finesse to clear, a certain execution to get ahead, and being slow at clearing, losing too much HP, using too many resources to just get out onto the map really can affect the nature of your Scuttle Crab fights, your first ganks, your 1v1s, your invades, and as such, many newer junglers or people learning the role in low to mid elo simply are losing before they even get to play the game. So this change will not affect you if you're high elo. Don't complain about it. It just helps the accessibility of newer players. But this is the biggest change in all of the nodes. Camp respawn timer 2 minutes to 2 minutes 15 seconds. And in return, the jungle gold from non-buffed camps will increase by approximately 5% overall. Now, a lot of people are saying they don't like this. Really? You don't like this? You enjoy PvE? Well, go play World of Warcraft. The fact of the matter is, a Karthus can stop loot, full sequences camp, take a crab. If the enemy jungler decides to 5 or 6 camp and is a bit slower, maybe both of them decide to gank, maybe one of them gets to double crab. The enemy Karthus at 4 minutes will take your second Grom, he will take your second Wolves, he will go back to base, and then he will full sequence all of his camps yet again. The enemy jungler in return can simply, you know, do the exact same thing. Boring. Or if the gank goes well and he simply gets chunked and gets a bit of gold and needs to go back to base, he will simply lose out on his Wolves and Grump, and the enemy jungler will be ahead in experience, ahead in levels, and ahead in tempo. 2 minutes 30 in Season 9, this was too long. We had catch-up experience, people were just chilling in lanes, not farming at all. This was the opposite end of the current spectrum. The 2 minutes 15 should provide us a nice happy medium. Now, what does this really mean in terms of camp sequencing? Doesn't change anything. If you do Grump, Wolves, Raptors, when they spawn again in 2 minutes 15, you can still do Grump, Wolves, Raptors. They will be connected just as always. The difference is, you know, when you took your first non-buff, say Grump, at 2 minutes after doing your blue, the next Grump would spawn at 4 minutes, and if we assume you're at the spawn when it shows up and you can take it instantaneously just to remove the time it takes to secure the camp, as that varies from champion to champion, you would have your tier 2 spawn at 4 minutes, tier 3 at 6, tier 4 at 8, and so on. Now with the 2 minute 15 spawn timer, it changes a little bit. 2 minutes, you take the second Grump spawn, so nothing's changed from your first clears. Next at 4:15, next at 6:30, and 8:45. That means for a tier 4 Grump camp, you will have a 45-second delay on the next patch versus what we currently have. I guess my question to you is, how will you fill that time? Standing around and dancing, or actually impacting the map? Maybe you delay your sequencing to try and do something else, counter jungle, dive, secure objectives. Or here's an idea, you could gank. Now on your screen, you will see 2 clears, PvE versus live, comparing the gold amounts at various times. The experience should be approximately the same. Obviously, because of the delayed spawn timers, the average level of the game will be higher when those camps respawn, equaling slightly higher experience gains, although overall the camps will provide the same. The most notable thing are the gold amounts. Now in live, you'll see at specific markers once they finish a certain clear rotation, how much gold you will have. On the PB, what's coming next week, you will see the amount at the same time, about 100 less on the tier 4 clear, and that's mostly because at those markers, 827, 1026, you would not have done the same amount of camps. So you will see the gold amount when they've also finished the exact same clears. Except as we said, you're losing about 45 seconds overall, but you will have more gold at that marker when you finish the camps, And yes, the 5% increase helps offset some of that loss from not having as many camps up, but you are still losing gold overall, which means you need to be very smart about how you spend your downtime between the camp spawns, because you cannot afford now as Karthus to do a full clear, take the bottom crab, and then go into the jungle at 4 minutes to take the Gromp. If the enemy jungler decides to spend his time ganking, he will now have time to reset and defend that Gromp and wolves, and you on the other hand will have to fill that time equally, going back to base and ganking, or simply going back to base and spamming your Q on nothing until the Gromp shows up. This is the biggest shift in the entire change that's coming through. It will not change our first clears whatsoever, just the type of junglers and what they do. It will change the second clear, the third clear, the fourth clear. You will not be able to full sequence while doing nothing anymore. You will not be able to say, hey guys, I'm 40 CS up, it's okay, just hold out. No, you're gonna have to get on the map, you're gonna have to do things. Because if you're only farming, you will have less gold than you currently do, and you won't be able to time them as well due to the 15-second offset, especially if you're a jungler that can sequence just as fast as live. What this also means is that while Lee Sin ganks bottom lane and you steal his Raptors and Krugs, if you take them down, that means in 2 minutes 15 they will spawn. The Lee Sin knows he's going to lose an extra 15 seconds before he's able to go and take those. So counter jungling in turn also has a heightened value. Except that means he's going to fill that time ganking, making impact, and if you don't do something else, if you don't counter his dragon with a herald, if you don't gank top when he ganks bot, if you just chill in your jungle, you will not have the same lead. We are looking at a fusion of Season 9 and Season 10. I'm excited. Hopefully that gives you a great idea of the 2 minute 15 spawn timers. That's going to completely change the meta, and I love the fact we're not going to have this weird AFK farming, full sequencing, counter jungling nonsense. But that doesn't mean farming junglers are dead. No, they're still going to be absolutely fine. You just have to be a lot more deliberate with your pathing, your counter jungling, and your objective control. Now the second bit, which everyone's kind of talking about generally, widening the viable champion pool. Basically, if you don't have CC to break the shield on the crab, now you can just smite it. This will mean that you have to exchange speed for security because champions with CC won't have to do that and they can secure it with their smite, whereas if you smite it to break the shield and they show up, you won't be able to do it as quickly. So decide if you want to do it fast with no shield, or you want to do it slower with a bit of safety. The Omni Vamp on the jungle items are going from 10% to 8%, and the Smite % max healing is going from 10% to 15%. Essentially, that should be a net neutral change. It won't affect you too much, but you can still see that it is kind of similar in terms of pacings. You shouldn't have any issue clearing the jungle. And remember, that includes the fact that the jungle camps do less damage to you, and the buffs have more HP. And that's because the next thing is reduced snowball. Yeah, I know everyone's looking at catch-up experience, but let's just look at the smite damage. That's now being changed from 390 to 1000 to 450 and 900, meaning before you finish your smite quest, it'll do 450 true damage, and once you finish that, it does 900. This will also impact your clear. You can smite a little earlier in the first 3 levels, which means, a couple autos you don't have to throw out. You get a bit more HP back. It doesn't really change the way you play the game. The implication, simply put, is that some people don't like it because, hey, I earned myself a lead, I should have more smite. As a counterpoint, I don't understand why Karthus or Fiddlesticks farming a lot faster than me and having less kill participation and maybe even less dragons should have more smite damage than me for neutral objectives. And as a Karthus Fiddlesticks player, you shouldn't feel like you're entitled to it as well. If you happen to be a jungler who is low on resources, in smite, in clash, what have you, you are not the carry condition on your team. It means you will sacrifice camps later on. It means you will be ganking more earlier. It means you might actually be 1 or 2 levels behind the enemy jungler because they may be the carry factor. You should not be punished as a team in a 5v5 setting over neutral objectives like barons and dragons just because your jungler has chosen a different playstyle that is low econ, and this factors into pro play heavily, by the way. It also means that, hey, the Nidalee did a 6 camp, I did a 5 camp, she's level 4, now I can be outsmited on the crab assuming we have the same ping. My champion just might not clear as fast as the Nidalee, and now I'm being punished for it. However, now we will have the same smite amount, which means it's a 50-50, and this will be the same for all Scuttle Crab, buff, and objective contests. I have no issue with that. The issue is if you are truly out-jungling someone, basically obliterating them from this earth, yes, you deserve to have a lead, and yes, you should have more smite, but really, if you're losing a 50-50 to a jungler you're up 3 levels on, and you couldn't get deep vision and control the objective more, did you really deserve to get that dragon if you lost a 50-50 and you were 3 levels up? Probably not. And finally, because it's 900 damage sooner, it means things like Lux ults just won't steal things super early, which is kind of annoying when ultimates do more than the smite, especially before you really get that experience lead and come online. So overall, I didn't really expect this, but I don't think it's going to change much. It's just going to adjust the way we approach 50-50s and lessen the ability of a team to snowball just because the jungler got ahead. Because if a jungler decided to camp top lane and the top lane is 3 levels ahead, that win condition is placed in someone else and the team shouldn't be punished for it either. And now onto the catch-up experience. Look, I like it when it's in the game, just not at season 9 levels. That was kind of outrageous. It has to be implemented subtly and properly, and then I'm okay with it. And in this case, it is. Remember, this isn't tied exactly to the camps. While camps will spawn at the average level of the game, when you are behind 2 levels or more, you will get that bonus experience from a large monster. However, it's when you are behind 2 levels or more on the game average, not on the camp. That means if it's a level 1 camp and you haven't taken it, and you're behind, like level 5 to level 7, you will still get that bonus 50 experience. That really isn't so bad. It's only if you were kind of DC at the beginning, or just simply put, you got annihilated by all lanes and you're just 3 levels down on the enemy jungler. It helps you stick around just a little bit, and because you will have that same smite amount, you could always go for a 50-50 hero steal and change the nature of the game. In high elo play, this isn't going to happen. You're not going to see anyone in skilled or elite play be 2 or more levels down on the game average. Remember, not the enemy jungler. The enemy jungler can be 2 to 3 levels ahead of you, but very rarely will you find yourself 2, 3, 4 levels behind the entire game's average. It will happen, but this seems to be a very subtle way of implementing it, and I'm okay with it. We just have to see how it plays out. I would have an issue with it if it was changed in any other way. This seems to be the least invasive way of implementing it into the game for junglers that kind of get themselves too far behind for whatever reason. If you smurfed all over the enemy jungler and he finds himself in that situation, it's not going to suddenly make him all the way back into the game. And honestly, if you lose from this, you will need to figure out a way of how to close games sooner, because that's on you. The final note is the camp leashing clarity. That is future work that is not coming out at the moment, but this doesn't impact anyone in skill play either. You know exactly how far you need to pull a camp in order to kite it to the next one. It's not going to change the way you play the game. For newer players, for inexperienced junglers, this will help a lot. And essentially, if you don't learn by muscle memory how far to pull it anyway, the warning sign isn't going to make you magically secure the camp if you don't have enough damage or smite. It's just going to reset anyway. It's just letting you know exactly where the limit is. This is one of those things that's great for accessibility and doesn't really help optimizations in the high elo, as you will have to learn this regardless. Which is literally what it says in the blog post if people decided to read it instead of complaining on Twitter. Anyway, there you have it, a good overview of all the changes. The biggest one is definitely the 2-minute 15. The Smite change also is the biggest in terms of 50-50s and anti-snowball. If you are a high elo player, that's what you should be focusing on, not the fact that the bonus attack damage is reduced. That doesn't change your life in any way. Please do keep your eye on the patch note for the exact numbers if they change slightly or something's removed. I've just covered everything here, as it's very important to cover it all. I'm sure it will all show up in the patch next week. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share, and comment if you enjoyed and learned something. Get ready for more ganking. Get ready to think a bit more about the jungle. Keep those beards combed and fresh, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.